Tonight we're going to tell you how Catholic charities are building low-income micro-housing for residents in Joplin. This is Amber Jenkins, KOAM News Now.
President Biden calling for a gas tax holiday. I'm Grady Trimble with Fox Business. Coming up, how much that would actually save you at the pump. That's next.
Watch News starts now.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jordan Abbey. Authorities have arrested a Springfield couple accused of abusing their son in ways that are considered child torture. The probable cause statement says Joseph and Peggy Flores would put their teenage son naked in a puppy cage with two dogs, pour urine on him, and hit him with an extension cord as a form of punishment. Authorities say the parents would refer to their son using racial slurs. Investigators think the abuse began back in March of 2020 when the boy was homeschooled during the COVID shutdown of Springfield schools. The Joplin United Micro-Housing Partnership completed its goal of adding more low-income housing for residents of Joplin. The 500-square-foot tiny duplexes are specifically for low-income individuals trying to become more independent. KOAM's Amber Jenkins reports.
Today is a big day for the Joplin United Micro-Housing Partnership. After 2 years in development, low-income duplexes are giving Joplin residents a home.
Post the Joplin tornado, there was a big need in the community for low-income housing. And so, throughout the years, we've done what we can to add more housing. And so this partnership came together to do something that we feel like can be affordable to build and affordable for those who need to rent it.
The housing partnership faced many obstacles throughout the project. Gathering funds and surviving COVID were a few of the obstacles this program overcame.
Here it feels wonderful. It took us a lot longer than what we anticipated because of COVID, but now that we've got two people in here that really deserve this place, it feels wonderful to be able to do it. And I'd like to be able to do more of this. So we got this through a grant. We didn't get this money through grants. It was a private donation, and so we would be glad to take on any more donations to be able to build this.
Joplin's desperate need for low-income housing kept the project moving forward. Once the affordable duplexes were built, Catholic Charities sheltered 2 residents already.
Because beforehand, these people had no place to go. One was living with her family. She couldn't afford to find a place here in Joplin because it's hard to find low-income rentals here in Joplin. The other lady was in an abusive place. She was living with another roommate, and she was taking her money and not paying rent. So she couldn't find any place to live by herself.
Despite some troubles, all the organizations within the partnership are proud to give back to the community. Wanting to help Joplin's residents fueled the partnership throughout the 2-year project.
Let me tell you, given what all has occurred over the last 2.5 years with the increase in material costs, the difficulty of labor, to finally get this launched and to see it succeed so quickly, that's exciting. To know that we got 2 people in a home that they need and that they're now healthy, safe, and have a place to live.
Amber Jenkins, KOAM News Now, Joplin, Missouri.
Catholic Charities also offers rental and utilities assistance to those who qualify. Joplin Fire Department held a ceremony for its brand new fire truck. The wet down ceremony, as it's called, was held at Fire Station number 5, where the fire truck received its first wash. The new aerial ladder truck has 107 feet of vertical and 100 feet of horizontal reach without compromising water capacity. The tradition also includes an opportunity for the community to push the truck into the bay after the wash.
They're loving it. They're very excited and ready to get into this thing. So it was, we were trying to find a date that worked for everybody that we could get it done as quickly as we could. Yeah, they're all very excited about getting this in service.
The ladder truck was funded through the public safety sales tax that voters approved back in 2006. A newly renamed program is helping Missouri businesses and farmers receive loans with lower interest rates. Today, Missouri Treasurer Scott Fitzpatrick met with American Ramp Company in Joplin to discuss the benefits of the program called MoBucks. MoBucks is a linked deposit program using state funds and allows businesses to be able to afford necessary equipment and materials at a discounted interest rate. With this program, the American Ramp Company has been able to update some of its equipment, purchase a new laser, and is working on building a new break room.
We can hire more people, from the Joplin community and grow our business, and ultimately that's good for Joplin, that's good for the state of Missouri, and And that's good for everybody. If businesses can be successful and have access to favorable interest rate loans, that the state's helping to underwrite with the bank, I think that's a pretty cool deal.
Missouri business owners and farmers can go ahead and talk to their bank to learn more about the Mo Bucks plan. Faced with growing pressure to bring down those gas prices, President Biden is calling on Congress to suspend the federal gas tax for 3 months. The idea, however, drawing bipartisan criticism. Fox News correspondent Madeline Rivera has reaction now from lawmakers in D.C.
As Americans gear up for summer travel, President Biden is looking to deliver for drivers desperate for a deal.
Now, I fully understand that a gas tax holiday alone is not going to fix the problem, but it will provide families some immediate relief.
The so-called gas tax holiday would suspend federal gas taxes through September, saving drivers roughly 18 cents on every gallon of gas and 24 cents per gallon of diesel. He's also calling on states to temporarily halt their gas taxes, too.
The American people, they need relief now.
It's not going to make any difference.
Some economists have a warning.
There's nothing that says that the companies need to pass the savings on. They could just keep that extra profit for themselves.
Others argue the suspension could actually boost demand and further strain supply. They say ramping up domestic production is the way to bring prices down.
They've done everything they can to dismantle the infrastructure, like canceling Keystone XL pipeline and discouraging domestic energy production.
The president's proposal faces a steep climb in Congress, with skeptical lawmakers on both sides of the aisle.
What the administration, of course, is coming up with is yet another gimmick, another Band-Aid, and something they know is dead on arrival up here in Congress.
The Biden administration is working to bring refineries shut down during the pandemic back online, an idea sure to come up when oil company CEOs meet with the Energy Secretary on Thursday. President Biden, however, is not expected to be there. In Washington, Madeline Rivera, Fox News.
So some experts are asking, will this proposal that we just heard about, will this thing actually give drivers any real relief at the pump? Fox Business Network's Grady Trimble breaks it all down.
How much you'd save during a gas tax holiday, of course, depends on how big your tank is and how often you fill it up, assuming all of the savings are passed on to the end consumer. And there's some evidence that's not the case, but for the simplicity of the math, we'll say that it is. If you fill up a Toyota Camry from empty, you'd save just under $3 for the entire tank with that 18 cents a gallon gas tax suspended. If you drive a pickup truck, it'd be around $4.75 for the entire tank. The drivers we talked to today say a few bucks here and there just doesn't cut it.
Any little bit helps right now because 18 cents is 18 cents a gallon when you're, filling up your car for $100. But it's not enough for me to think it's worth it.
They need to figure out a better way to get the gas prices down to something normal because, gas is basically a bill now. It's like higher than my light bill and my gas bill at home.
In addition to a federal gas tax holiday, President Biden is also calling on states to suspend their gas taxes, which would lead to even greater savings. But the president is facing criticism for the plan from AAA and other industry experts. Gas Buddy's Patrick DeHaan, for one, he tells us he's a little bit worried it would drive demand up at a time when supply is low. It could also push prices up more down the road should there be any disruption to supply. It is important to note that the president has faced pushback from even members of his own party on a potential gas tax holiday, and it does require Congress to act in order to suspend the gas tax. In Chicago, Grady Trimble, Fox Business.
KOAM News at 9 on Fox 14 takes this time now to honor another four-state hero. J. Earl Violet served in the U.S. Navy during World War II. We're very proud to thank and salute J. Earl Violet, native of Arma, Kansas. He's tonight's four-state hero. Nick Kelly's next with a complete look at the forecast, and later, Oklahoma aiming to earn a spot in the College World Series Finals.
Even though we had a few thunderstorms to track, especially this evening on the far southeastern Kansas side, it was not much to scrub out the heat, but we did a little better compared to yesterday's highs in the mid-90s. We had lower 70s to start this morning out, and topping out at 91 so far at Joplin Regional at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. Everybody made it at least into the upper 80s to lower 90s this afternoon because of our front parked right on top of the region. That front brought some thunderstorms across our northern counties this morning and even into the early afternoon. Then our focus shifted primarily to this cluster of storms that really doesn't look impressive now. It's more impressive one that was producing some severe weather, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and I think up to ping-pong ball-size hails are working through Cowley and Sumner counties. But anything that's been trying to make it into our part of southeast Kansas, it's falling apart before it even makes it to Fredonia. So that is continuing to be a downward trend with our rain chances as we go through the overnight. But we're not done with rain chances just yet. 7th and range line, we're looking a bit mostly cloudy, but we're looking okay nonetheless. 79 is right now. North breeze at 5. Dew point at 69 makes it feel like 82 degrees. And it's the same story across much of the region. Upper 70s to lower 80s. Your air temperatures feels like we're still near 80 in some spots in the mid 80s, even though we're starting to see that sunset in the western horizon. Let's look at our surface setup here, especially at the surface here. Here's our front parked right on top of the region. You would think that it was going to continue to pass on through, but it's pretty much stalled out, and it's actually going to lift back north as we get the weekend started. But this cold front, that's the one that's going to give us a much needed break from the heat and ultimately squash this upper level ridge and force it back to the southwest. But that's staying in control, so even though that front will be around, that upper level ridge means we'll only see temperatures drop back after those few showers die out during the overnight, dropping back into the lower 70s. Going throughout the course of the morning, maybe a few showers, but I think the better shot for any more scattered storms will be during the afternoon tomorrow. Like what we saw today, though, I don't think anything too strong or severe, but 71 in the morning, 86 by noon. That upper ridge still in control, gets us at least back to 91 for tomorrow afternoon. I think we're quiet to start the overnight out, but by Friday morning, I'm going to be tracking maybe some isolated storms in our far northern areas, but that front lifts back to the north, and we go back into the mid-90s for Friday. That upper level ridge, though, before it gets finally broken down, we're going to be in the upper 90s, maybe a few spots near 100 as we go into Saturday afternoon. But here's that stronger front. Saturday night, going into Sunday morning, a better shot for widespread storms, some of them that could actually pack a punch, so that's something we'll certainly watch. But look at what it does. It's going to force that ridge back to the west, and we'll be thankful for it because it'll give us a break from the heat, finally. 91 tomorrow, 94 Friday, upper 90s for Saturday, 83 for your Sunday. We'll stay in the 80s through early next week. Jordan, fingers crossed, we can dip back into the lower 60s by Monday morning.
All right, Nick, thanks so much, man. Here's a look at our tower camera, sponsored by R.E. Smith Construction as work continues on the KOAM More Power Project. Check it out anytime on our website, KOAMnewsnow.com/power. The bipartisan gun control bill, which passed a test vote last night in the Senate, could end up being the first overhaul of the nation's gun laws in nearly 3 decades. Fox News correspondent Caroline Shively has more now from Washington.
The Senate looks to be on the verge of passing a $15 billion gun control measure. The last time Congress passed major legislation on firearms was the Brady Bill in 1993.
The bill is real progress. It will save lives. And it is my intention to make sure the Senate passes this bill before the end of the week.
It does not so much as touch the rights of the overwhelming majority of American gun owners who are law-abiding citizens of sound mind.
Lawmakers say the fully paid-for package sends money to states to build up school safety and mental health services, enhances background checks for gun buyers aged 18 to 21 to include juvenile records, sends millions to states for red flag laws, and closes the boyfriend loophole. The federal ban on abusers will now include those who abused a dating partner instead of just spouses. The package does not include changes President Biden asked for, like a ban on assault weapons or a ban on high-capacity magazines, which was vehemently opposed by many Republicans.
Assuming this does actually pass Congress and it makes it to the president's desk, this would be President Biden's marquee legislative achievement going into the midterms, second perhaps only to the American Rescue Plan. It's certainly historic.
Historically, it's been easier to get gun legislation through the House than the Senate. But now the House Republican whip says he'll push his members to vote no. In Washington, Caroline Shively, Fox News.
All right, going to catch up with some kids in Northeast Oklahoma coming up, learning, for many of them, a new sport. New government data finds 14.5% of American adults have trouble falling asleep. A survey from the National Center for Health Statistics also found more than 70% have trouble staying asleep. Women were more likely than men to have trouble both falling and staying asleep. A new study links the inability to stand on one leg for 10 seconds to increased risk of death for middle-aged and older adults. Nearly 2,000 older Brazilians participated in the study, which included a 1-foot balance test. Researchers found those who could not hold a balance for 10 seconds were almost twice as likely to die in the next 10 years. The Wyandotte Nation teaming up with coaches and players from Missouri State's lacrosse team and Springfield High School for a lacrosse camp. Purpose of this camp is to introduce the fundamentals of lacrosse to the four-state area. KOAM photojournalist Carrie Worthen was at the camp.
So the history of lacrosse is incredible. You know, it's a Native American sport. That's where it originated. It actually got its name not from the Native Americans, but by some of the first settlers that came over and seen them playing, and they thought it was a cross that they were holding in their hands, and you know, so that's kind of how it took its name.
With the cradling. Did you try something uncomfortable and use your weekend?
To me, it was always just something, an outlet for me. Right, I got to meet a bunch of friends, a lot of people who shared a common interest, and it was just a way for me to really express myself as an athlete.
And you guys have got it down in less than 2 days. Super proud of you.
We hope that it will encourage lacrosse in this community and throughout Oklahoma.
Good. Oh, nice snag, TJ. Nice throw, baby. TJ, getting low. One more back to him, Joe. You guys go grab one.
The whole point of us doing this is we want to grow the game. We want to see lacrosse take off here like it has in most other places of the country. You know, the Midwest is always the kind of the last to get it.
We're going to have a lacrosse league that we can have the other tribes join us if they want to work with us, but also community members can play lacrosse.
Wyandotte Nation is receiving a $1 million grant to renovate its powwow grounds and also add a lacrosse field. Still ahead, desperate searches underway in Afghanistan.
Rescue efforts continue in Afghanistan after a powerful earthquake strikes the country. In London, I'm Alex Hogan. I'll have more on this story coming up.
International aid agencies are trying to get help to Afghanistan. This after a powerful earthquake strikes the region. Taliban's takeover last year could impact those relief efforts. Fox News correspondent Alex Hogan has more.
A desperate search for survivors in eastern Afghanistan today. A large earthquake struck a remote area near the Pakistani border, killing at least 1,000 people and injuring hundreds of others. The quake striking early in the morning when many were asleep. Neighbors removed stones and mud by hand as they tried to free people trapped underneath the collapsed homes.
There's no sophisticated equipment up in these villages. These are people who lived hand to mouth.
Some of the injured were raced onto helicopters while others were treated on the ground outside of their homes. The disaster hitting as the Taliban-ruled country battles hunger and an economic crisis. Most governments have been reluctant to work directly with the Taliban after it took over last year. The militant group's leaders making an appearance today, calling on the international community for help.
There is a need for help from other countries. It is very difficult for us to be able to respond to this huge incident.
The UN and Red Cross say they're working to move emergency aid into the country, but it's not clear how much could reach the remote area. Relief workers say some roads may have sustained significant damage.
The roads are not necessarily all good. The places you try to access are sometimes remote. So in terms of logistics, of course, it takes time, many hours.
President Biden has directed federal officials to assess how the U.S. can assist victims of the earthquake. In London, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Some new drinks over at Starbucks that seem like a really good cool down during this summer heat. Yeah, more on this when we come back. Starbucks kicking off summer with some new items on its menu. The chain released its latest permanent addition to its menu, the Pineapple Passion Fruit Refresher and Paradise Drink Refreshers. Pineapple Passion Fruit Drink, now that's a chicken sandwich. We're going to talk more about that later, okay? Pineapple Passion Fruit Drink features the flavors of passion fruit and pineapple, hand shaken by Starbucks baristas with real diced pineapple pieces and ice. That sounds good. Paradise Drink adds the tropical twist of coconut milk to the pineapple passion fruit. Now, all right, chicken sandwich, we're going to talk about you now. Another item on the menu is the chicken maple butter and egg sandwich. I mean, that's good too. Just kidding. You're just as popular as the other drinks. I don't want to diss the chicken sandwich. But, really, whether it be Starbucks or any other place that would release that drink, that seems like a good summertime drink just to cool off, right? 30 more minutes, news, weather, and sports coming your way.
The CDC and FDA have cleared the way for kids under 5 to get the COVID vaccine. But can we get it locally? I'm Bronte Sorotsky with that answer.
Technology used in self-driving cars is now being transformed into devices to help the blind. I'm Marianne Rafferty. Details coming up.
COVID-19 vaccines are now available to children as young as 6 months old, but it may be a while before local kids can get those vaccines. State health departments in Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma have authorized kids aged 6 months to 4 years to get either a Pfizer or Moderna vaccine. KON's Bronte Sorotsky spoke with an infection specialist at Freeman Health System about when these local kids could have the chance to get these vaccines.
Nationwide, infants and toddlers will be up next in eligibility to get their COVID vaccines. The FDA and CDC both gave the green light for kids to get the Moderna or Pfizer on Saturday.
We have, pediatric patients that have, different types of chronic illnesses. So this just, creates that level of protection and safeguard, if you will, for our patients that, and whose parents who maybe are concerned about that.
Freeman pediatricians have already been getting calls about the vaccine for kids. And while they don't have any available yet, they are ready to answer any questions parents may have.
It was just recently approved. We do know that, if you are a parent who would like your kid to be vaccinated for COVID, or if you have some questions about it, your best route would be to call your pediatrician and to talk to them. Here in the next few weeks, Freeman will be meeting to discuss options available for the community for giving the pediatric vaccine.
Jessica Liberty, manager of infection prevention at Freeman, says they aren't seeing many kids hospitalized due to COVID, and these vaccines just add another layer of protection.
We have not, in the very recent past, had any admissions that were pediatric age, so that's really encouraging to see. Those that have COVID at this point are recovering at home. When you get vaccinated, not only are you protecting yourself, but you're also protecting other special loved ones that maybe are at higher risk.
Liberty added that with masking easing up, she recommends talking with your pediatrician about the vaccine. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
KOAM also reached out to Mercy Health System to see if they will be administering the vaccine for young children. We have not yet received a response from them. Man, look at that fun. Nothing beats the heat quite like a big splash of cold water. The Chanute, Kansas Fire Department contributed to the funds by spraying down kids participating in water wars in Chanute. That looks so fun. The event also included all kinds of wet and wild water games. Those water balloons that I saw, man. The Chanute Public Library organized the whole thing as part of the summer reading program. The idea is to create some fun, some good old fun, and some goodwill between kids and the library.
I really hope that they have a positive association with the library and that this is something that they'll remember when they're adults, and they'll think, hey, I remember going to the library and I remember having a really good time at that water event. Let's go to the library with my kids, and then we can keep that cycle going for generations.
Now, adults need to cool down too, right? So Water Wars wasn't just for kids. The fun was open to people of all ages. A federal panel reviewing vitamin and mineral supplements recommending against the use of Beta-Carotene and vitamin E supplements for the prevention of cardiovascular disease and cancer. The U.S. Preventive Services Task Force also says there isn't enough evidence to support the use of multivitamins to prevent cancer and cardiovascular disease. More than half of U.S. adults surveyed reported using at least one supplement in the last 30 days. New device could help change the lives of billions of people living with visual impairments. Fox News correspondent Marianne Rafferty has a closer look at the biped. Now, the technology behind it is also behind autonomous cars.
Innovative minds in France are adapting technology used to keep self-driving cars on the road into devices that help people with limited or no sight safely navigate the world around them.
Biped is a navigation device built for visually impaired and blind people. It is a small harness worn on the shoulders. It has some 3D cameras built in, and it will detect all the area in front of the user.
Special bone conduction headphones accompany the harness and notify the wearer when the cameras sense them approaching an object. The audio notifications are transmitted through bones in the skull and don't obstruct the user's hearing, which is important for those with poor sight.
I can hear the sound of an obstacle becoming louder and louder. Okay, now I know I am close enough, and I know there is nothing on my left, so I can keep going.
Biped devices are expected to go on sale in September for a little over $3,100, and health data suggests they could be in high demand. According to the CDC, roughly 12 million people in the U.S. 40 years and older are visually impaired, including 1 million who are considered blind. And globally, the World Health Organization reports at least 2.2 billion people suffer from some form of visual impairment. As for the biped, company officials say its uses are limitless, suggesting it could even help firefighters and first responders navigate smoke-filled buildings or disaster sites to help rescue people. Marianne Rafferty, Fox News.
That's pretty cool. All right, a bit later, the NFL head on Capitol Hill today.
It's been 13 years since the NFL commissioner testified before Congress. Roger Goodell responds to toxic workplace allegations surrounding the Washington Commanders. I'm Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. More on that coming up.
Even though we had a few thunderstorms to track, especially this evening on the far southeastern Kansas side, it was not much to scrub out the heat, but we did a little better compared to yesterday's highs in the mid-90s. We had lower 70s to start this morning out, and topping out at 91 so far at Joplin Regional at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. Everybody made it at least into the upper 80s to lower 90s this afternoon because of our front parked right on top of the region. That front brought some thunderstorms across our northern counties this morning and even into the early afternoon. Then our focus shifted primarily to this cluster of storms that really doesn't look impressive now. It's more impressive one that was producing some severe weather, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, and I think up to ping-pong ball-size hails are working through Cowley and Sumner counties. But anything that's been trying to make it into our part of southeast Kansas, it's falling apart before it even makes it to Fredonia. So that is continuing to be a downward trend with our rain chances as we go through the overnight. But we're not done with rain chances just yet. 7th and range line, we're looking a bit mostly cloudy, but we're looking okay nonetheless. 79 is right now. North breeze at 5. Dew point at 69 makes it feel like 82 degrees. And it's the same story across much of the region. Upper 70s to lower 80s, your air temperatures feels like we're still near 80 and some spots in the mid 80s, even though we're starting to see that sunset in the western horizon. Let's look at our surface setup here, especially at the surface here. Here's our front parked right on top of the region. You would think that it was going to continue to pass on through, but it's pretty much stalled out, and it's actually going to lift back north as we get the weekend started. But this cold front, that's the one that's going to give us a much needed break from the heat and ultimately squash this upper level ridge and force it back to the southwest. But that's staying in control, so even though that front will be around, that upper level ridge means we'll only see temperatures drop back after those few showers die out during the overnight, dropping back into the lower 70s. Going throughout the course of the morning, maybe a few showers, but I think the better shot for any more scattered storms will be during the afternoon tomorrow. Like what we saw today, though, I don't think anything too strong or severe, but 71 in the morning, 86 by noon. That upper ridge still in control, gets us at least back to 91 for tomorrow afternoon. I think we're quiet to start the overnight out, but by Friday morning, I'm going to be tracking maybe some isolated storms in our far northern areas, but that front lifts back to the north, and we go back into the mid-90s for Friday. That upper level ridge, though, before it gets finally broken down, we're going to be in the upper 90s, maybe a few spots near 100 as we go into Saturday afternoon. But here's that stronger front. Saturday night, going into Sunday morning, a better shot for widespread storms, some of them that could actually pack a punch, so that's something we'll certainly watch. But look at what it does. It's going to force that ridge back to the west, and we'll be thankful for it because it'll give us a break from the heat, finally. 91 tomorrow, 94 Friday, upper 90s for Saturday, 83 for your Sunday. We'll stay in the 80s through early next week. Jordan, fingers crossed, we can dip back into the lower 60s by Monday morning.
All right, Nick, thanks again. Coming up in sports, Oklahoma one way away from the College World Series finals, plus 2 former Pitt State baseball players aiming to make an impact as coaches. Danny Terzer has the story next.
Pitt State's Austin Bonnell and Caleb Carr finished their playing careers this past season, but neither is stepping away from baseball. Bonnell and Carr are beginning their coaching careers. This summer, they are assistants on the Joplin Outlaws coaching staff. After that, Bonnell will be a volunteer assistant at Butler Community College, and Carr is heading back to Pitt State to work with outfielders and hitters. As coaches, they have the opportunity to pass down their knowledge and make an impact on someone else's career.
I've learned a lot throughout playing that I want to instill with these younger guys. I wish what I knew now, I wish I knew it 4 or 5 years ago when I was playing. Sharing my knowledge with these kids, it's awesome. I just want them to play hard. That's the only way to play this game. So if they play hard and we make mistakes going hard 100%, I'm completely fine with that. I want to see these guys get better. It's not about me, it's about these guys.
Joplin has won 3 of their last 4 games and are aiming for back-to-back wins against Des Moines tonight. The Outlaws homer twice early. They score 4 more runs in the 8th to take an 8-6 lead. Oklahoma meets Texas A&M today for the second time at the College World Series. The Sooners won the first meeting 13-8. With a win today, Oklahoma advances to the finals. First inning, 2 on for Jimmy Crooks. He goes deep for a 3-run shot. Sooners take a quick lead. David Sandlin locked in today, 3 straight strikeouts here in the 4th. He pitches 7 innings, allowing 1 run and striking out 12 batters. In the 5th, Tanner Treadaway rips it through the left side. Another run scores for the Sooners, and Oklahoma eliminates Texas A&M to reach the finals 5-1. In the MLB, the Cards are in the middle of a series with the Brewers. Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado both have 2-run home runs in the game. St. Louis hangs on to a 5-4 lead in the 8th. And the Royals are winners of 5 of their last 6, going for the sweep tonight against the Angels. Late start out on the West Coast. It's tied at 0 in the 2nd. That's a look at sports. We're back after this.
The Justice Department announcing steps Facebook is going to take to prevent discriminatory housing advertising. The DOJ says it reached an agreement with Facebook's parent company, Meta Platforms, to settle the lawsuit. The agreement is going to have Facebook change its algorithms. The Justice Department says this was its first case challenging algorithmic discrimination under the Fair Housing Act. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell testifying in front of a House committee after they probed the league's handling of sexual misconduct allegations associated with the Washington Commanders. Owner Dan Snyder was invited to testify, did not. Lawmakers are now preparing to issue a subpoena to gather more information from him. Fox News congressional correspondent Chad Pergram has more from Capitol Hill.
NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell facing tough questions on Capitol Hill Wednesday. House members unveiled their preliminary findings from an ongoing probe of the Washington Commanders. They looked into whether the NFL did enough to prevent toxic workplace practices within the franchise.
I think any action that would discourage people from coming forward would be inappropriate and absolutely wrong.
The probe includes 450,000 documents and dozens of interviews of women who say the team failed to act on sexual misconduct allegations spanning years. This includes patterns of alleged unwanted touching, inappropriate comments, and belittling behavior by high-ranking employees within the organization.
No one should experience workplaces like the one they described, especially not in the National Football League. I can say to every victim unequivocally, that their willingness to come forward has contributed to a substantially improved workplace.
Lawmakers blasted Commander's owner Dan Snyder for refusing to testify. Snyder himself faced sexual assault allegations in 2009. The team paid the alleged victim $1.6 million to settle her claims.
Apparently, Mr. Snyder is in France, where he has docked his luxury yacht near a resort town. That should tell you just how much respect he has for women in the workplace.
Oversight Committee Chairwoman Carolyn Maloney is issuing a subpoena for owner Dan Snyder to appear for a deposition next week. On Capitol Hill, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Time to wrap up the night. Coming up, going to preview a new Elvis movie opening this week. Get ready to shake, rattle, and roll. The King is back in the Oscar-nominated filmmaker Baz Luhrmann's new film, Elvis. The musical drama examines the icon's relationship with his manager and how his music was influenced by the Black American artists of his time. Here's Fox's Asher Dvorkin with this story.
Austin Butler transforms into the king of rock and roll in the musical drama Elvis.
He feels so superhuman and godlike at times. For me, it was getting beyond all that and really personalizing him, because at the end of the day, he was just a little kid who came from nothing, who grows up and becomes the most famous person in the world.
The late legendary singer's life story is told through the lens of his complicated relationship with his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, played by Tom Hanks.
You can't tell his life without the relationship to Colonel Tom Parker, like a giant character. That's his manager, controller, his sort of carnival, snake oil salesman. So there's a duet there. Also, you can't tell it without looking at his relationship to black music and the black community.
Singer-songwriter Yola, who plays the godmother of rock and roll, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, says she appreciates filmmaker Baz Luhrmann making it a priority to address how Black American music impacted Elvis's life.
He grew up going to black church, and when he'd come home from school, he'd run home to listen to Sister Rosetta Tharpe, a woman who is responsible for inventing rock and roll, giving birth to this scene. The first person to use heavy distortion, the first person to take the blues bands and speed them up and rock them through that distortion to make the first shred. That's like how she influenced Elvis.
The King comes back to life when Elvis jams into theaters Friday. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. I'm going to leave you with video of a tree kangaroo at the San Antonio Zoo. Be safe. Do this all again tomorrow. See you then.